Hey, hi, Rach. So we keep hearing that brave creative works, right? But the problem is, bravery is pretty subjective and difficult to measure. I was wondering, is there a way of using data to know how far we should go?
Good question, mystery caller. I'm on it. Welcome to Rethink, a podcast by Think with Google. I'm Rachel Corbett, and today's episode is all about what it takes to don your armour, grab your sword, and charge into the battle of creativity. All right, that was probably a bit much, but being brave when you're coming up with creative doesn't have to mean dressing up like you're ready to joust. It's about standing out in a sea of sameness. It's about saying the things people are thinking, but that other brands don't seem comfortable saying. And when you get that right, you end up with an ad that makes people think, finally, someone is listening. And that's exactly what Aldi did with their unprecedented ad for these unprecedented times. Let me set the scene for you. We open on a park. A lady is casually walking home with her shopping when suddenly a news helicopter descends on her from above, close enough for an interview, but still a safe COVID and head chopping off distance away.
We're coming to you live from the scene. Tell us what you've got there. Toilet paper?
Nah, just dinner stuff.
Right. You must have paid an unprecedented price for that during these unprecedented times.
Nah, they're from Aldi. Prices are always low. Let's just go.
None of that, we're all in this together. No new normal, just a lady out for a shopping, paying the prices she's always paid.
At its heart, it was just a reassurance message. At its very deep core, it was just saying, hey, other prices are fluctuating up and down. Don't worry, everyone relax. Ours will stay the same. So a reassurance message with a rather ridiculous wrapper.
That's David Fraser, BMF's creative director, who was responsible for the ad. And he's got some thoughts on how to hook people in with your creative. And don't worry, it doesn't involve hiring a helicopter.
I think you just got to put yourself in people's shoes. Put yourself, on the other side of the screen and go, what's going to grab me? What would I continue watching? I see it as a bit of a trade. You're asking people to give you 30 seconds, give them something in return.
Seems simple enough, right? But unfortunately, not enough brands think about their advertising as an exchange. I'm giving you my eyeballs, and these could go anywhere. So if you want them to stick around, you've got to work hard. But bravery is easier said than done when you're dealing with a client who feels way more comfy in the safe zone. If you want to make creative that stands out, it's essential to have a strong relationship with your client.
I think brave creative starts with collaboration and deep trust. It was obviously not an easy conversation to do a creative like this in the midst of sea of sameness. However, because we've been working with Aldi for the last 18 years, it's been a simple strategy.
If you trust your creative team and understand the strategy behind the idea, all of a sudden, a reporter demanding to know what's in your shopping bag from a helicopter doesn't seem so out there. And that's where Kinga Papp comes in. Kinga is the group strategy director at BMF, and she's been working with Aldi for years and knows what it takes to build a great partnership.
It's all about simplicity, and a reduction is the name of the game, both in terms of strategy, creative, and production approach. And that's brave creativity. I think that's where it starts. It's understanding each other's worlds and being in a really strong partnership. And when they succeed, we succeed.
What choices do you think brands should make in terms of their media and also their creatives to make sure that their campaigns work harder?
There's a difference between data and insight. And Aldi, I think, is particularly good at insight and always pushes us to go further. So what we do, I think, particularly well, and what we're very, very passionate about is knowing the customer and having really clear insight and very true insight about the customer, because that's when we can give Dave and his team something genuinely valuable.
I think to Kinga's point, it kind of captured the zeitgeist at the time. What was the sort of sentiment out there? I think it's captured the truth, what everyone was feeling. And I think that's where our sort of role comes in as sort of marketers and as agencies. As much as we can look at the data, what people are doing, what's the behavior, what's that little connection point, what's that thing that we can bring to it to capture the sort of essence of how people are thinking. And then it was just nice to go up against attention. I think as soon as we saw the phrase precedented prices, that just stuck out for us. Really sticky little set of words, and just to go up against all the hysteria that everyone else was buying into, and just the really kind of generic work that a lot of other brands were doing. So it gave us a real clear path to cut through.
It's one of those things where I guess great creative is always that idea that people go, why didn't I do that first? Because we had seen so much sameness. So it really wasn't that hard if you hit on a killer idea to stand out in a space where everybody else was doing, we're all in this together.
While standing out is easy, as you said, in this particular instinct, what was really powerful for us, it was a brand truth. So the fact that everything was so unprecedented gave us the perfect launching pad to highlight how all these permanently low prices are just boringly, predictably the same, which is, this is how the term precedented was coined, right? Because we just said like, yeah, we have nothing exciting to talk about. This is literally always the same. Hence, it felt not just that it's an opportunity to stand out and be culturally relevant, but also highlight all these points of difference in the time that matters the most to consumers.
Is it even more important, obviously, now with online video? There was a time where you would have people sitting in front of the TV, you've got a full 30 seconds, but with skippable ads and things online, you really have to have so much punch in that first few seconds.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's what's going to make people either stay with you or you're going to lose them. I think giving time and money to that craft, I think always pushing for that at every corner, even when you're making everything from a 6-second bumper to the longer forms and you want people just, we're competing against the other stuff people watch, which is really high-end film, entertainment, and the endless content at our fingertips these days. That's what we're competing against. So I just always think the more you can push for time and craft is huge.
We know that from behavioral science that this is how memory encoding works, right? So something cannot be so fresh that you have no idea where to put it in your head, in which box, but it can't just be the same old, because then you just don't pay attention. And what has been, I guess, the recipe for Aldi's success is balance. They're doing this balancing act really well. When you think about our ads, they don't look like supermarket ads at all, right? So that's the fresh part of it. But then they are not just weird for the sake of being weird. They always land back in the category, and there's always a really clear connection of why there's a chopper, right? So it's like, well, that's the fresh part of like, of course there's a chopper, like why is this happening? But then it links back really clearly why we can do this and why are we doing this and what's the value proposition of Aldi.
So Brave Creative is about having a strong foundation, a killer strategy, a message that isn't so different people are confused, and then you got to bring in the data.
Definitely use the data. Sorry, I say data, you say data.
Hey, you can do it whatever way you like. That's Fiona Walford, Head of Creative Development at Google Australia and New Zealand, who, regardless of how she pronounces data, knows what she's talking about.
Definitely use the data to inform the human side of things, the empathy, the emotional, the understanding of what those people are into, those audiences and those targets are really embracing, but aim to be more different versus more the same. So consider being more human, empathetic, emotional, not just rational in your messaging. And that's the kind of really key difference. I say that bearing in mind what your business objectives are. More creative risk-taking is needed, but you can make calculated risks using data and signals to identify trends and audience insights and using lots of the tools that we have.
You heard the lady. Don't just take risks for the sake of being risky. Use data to back up your wild ideas, because it's those killer concepts supported by science that will set you apart.
Really famous quote, burn back, everybody's using it at the moment. Creativity is really the last unfair business advantage you can have. And I think that is true more than ever right now. Don't shy away from it, embrace it, have some fun with it and make it memorable. We know creativity is hard. It does require bravery, and actually sometimes it's really hard to measure. That being the proverbial hot potato. Everybody wants to know, if you did this and you measured it, would it be that? And that's ridiculously difficult to do per se, especially at the moment when everyone's trying to remain within some boundaries and not be too brave. We're sort of saying push beyond that. But just be as informed in your decisions about it as you possibly can be. So mine that information, mine that data, mine those insights to make sure that it does make sense.
If brands should be making really brave creative, what does brave creative look like in the current climate?
It is the $1 million question, I would definitely say right now, but having got through a period of sameness, we're now at a point where creating standout, as I said, is really important. There's not one way, for sure. Of course, it's creative, right? It has to start with a big idea. There's no formula for this. We'd all be very rich if there was. But having a perspective and giving it space to breathe and come to life, I think, is the most important thing with the idea. It doesn't have to be smashed out in 15 seconds. Think about telling your story over a longer period of time.
In terms of bravery, one of the least brave things to do right now seems to be run a COVID ad. Are we past that time? Do brands need to be looking forward and changing the messaging to something more future focused rather than we're all in this together in our unprecedented times of the new normal?
More than 90% of the effective ads that ran after COVID had started made no reference to the crisis at all, which is fascinating, right? So many of the questions we got asked up front is, can we show people that aren't wearing masks? Are we allowed to represent people, and show them in a restaurant or getting in a taxi? There was a lot of panic around what you couldn't show. But I think very quickly people, they might not be in a world that they want to be, and life might not actually look like that, but they are very comfortable with what that message is, and it resonates with them still.
Life's not over yet, and most of us are dying to have our personal space invaded. Or maybe that's just me. So it's okay to show a world that's a bit more like the one we used to live in and will no doubt live in again. I get it, these are nerve-wracking times where you might be fearful of the consequences of getting it wrong, but if you're looking for a magic formula for how to do brave creative, I'm afraid Fee's coming in hot with a little truth for you. Oh, and then she'll have some good news after that.
There's no formula, we know that, and there's no magic bullet. John Hegarty very famously said, it's all about turning intelligence into magic. So, you've got to mine that data, you've got to understand that insight, you've got to understand those consumers. Creative agencies are brilliant at this. Strategists and planners rock at it. And it's using that human truth and that kind of empathetic connection to, particularly right now, that I think is seeing the real cut through. I think the Aldi ad worked so well because of that, because it was kind of like literally she's walking with her shopping, she's like, no, it's just the best value. And I think people just made them smile instead of made them feel like, this is the worst period ever of my world and how are we going to get out of it?
But it's not always about distracting people from the worst year ever. It's also about not making them glaze over when they realise, I'm being served up an ad. And that's why Google has come up with its unskippable principles.
People like the opportunity to skip. Gives you 5 seconds to say something and see if somebody wants to engage with you or not engage with you. So what the unskippable principles really are about is how do you grab that attention within those first 5 seconds? But more importantly now, not get lazy after the first 5 seconds. So there's a traditional story arc that it's almost the way that we always used to tell stories. We kind of like slow burn, reaching up to a crescendo, and then maybe from an ad's perspective, a bit of product information, a little bit of detail, and perhaps, the final line. What we've found is people drop out of that initial raise up to the crescendo. So we talk about almost a wave-like structure to your storytelling so that you're maintaining peaks of interest and attention all the way through.
Someone who's nailed that keep your eyeballs engaged content is Klarna, a Swedish bank that had a very unbanky entree into Australia with this online music video.
Hey, what are you up to?
Just a bit of online shopping.
Oh, do you mind getting me a couple of things?
Yeah, but we don't really have much room in our apartment.
Yeah, just the essentials.
I get what I love, easy, upfront. Tim Tams, yeah, I got stacks. I get what I love, yeah.
Week 1, in the house munching on a Tim Tam, thinking about toning up my core and my six-pack. On the living room floor with a pretty pink mat. Just got into Zumba because I'm trying to get my rig back.
Whoa, that's not how you do it.
What are you talking about?
It's all about the exhale.
I get what I love.
What you were tapping your toes to there is Get What I Love, a song by Tandy Phoenix and Tucker featuring the inspired unemployed. It was a very catchy, well-shot, low-touch way to introduce Klarna's Buy Now, Pay Later service to Australia, a challenge that was tackled by Marketing Director Andrea Darling.
Coming to Australia where we had brand awareness of 0, we obviously needed to build brand awareness. That was number 1 on our agenda. Our world, our epicenter is a shopping app. So the second piece was to start engaging people and driving them to download the app. And it's been a very unpredictable journey.
How did you shift your messaging when you realised that, COVID was something that was really coming for all of us, and so it was something that had to be factored in?
So we were 5 days off our official launch campaign. We'd spent several $1 million. We had a lot of high optics stuff out in market or about to go live in market. Lots of outdoor, lots of transport, and clearly as it was becoming very evident that our worlds were about to change, that campaign plan was not going to work. And the first thing we did was to literally put everything on hold and regroup.
That's right. They did the one thing everybody's been saying is a big no-no. They went dark.
So let's switch everything off. Let's figure out what's going on. Let's really watch what people are doing and how they are feeling. And then we can create a new story and build on that.
So they may have turned the lights off, but they weren't hiding under the covers waiting till this was all over. They were busily working by the glow of the computer, mining the data.
I am really big on being very human. You need to really go out to the market and understand how they are feeling and thinking. So we obviously lent on a lot of research and data to see what was going on.
What did you find out from the research that you did about how people were feeling, behaving, and what kind of messages they wanted to hear that ended up informing the campaign that you created?
It was clear that although incomes were going down, spending was actually going up, particularly online. Millennials are a key audience for us, and yet they were some of the hardest hit as far as job loss is. We take our role as a lender incredibly seriously. So we have a pillar internally called Mindful Money, and we kind of delved into what is the role that we should play. It was very, very clear from the research and the data that our core audience was online and social channels. And when we started looking at the role that we should play during this time, there was so much uncertainty. People were feeling vulnerable, they were scared, but they were also bored. So they were looking for a form of entertainment. And that was the first kernel of the idea. How could we launch the brand, build our brand awareness, but show up in a highly entertaining way?
And the answer was an ad that wasn't an ad. Instead, Universal Music came back with an idea for a music video.
The actual brief that we then delved into with Universal, we looked at shopping behaviours. So we used all that research to see what were people spending on. And it was the things like home furnishings and electrical goods and sporting goods and, buying stuff to cook with. Everyone went nuts. I heard that 200-piece kitchen sets were selling out at a rate of knots. And, you buy it and you're thinking, I'm never going to use this again. But it seemed like a good idea at the time. We gave Universal Music a lot of freedom. We educated them on our brand. So we spent a lot of time taking them through our brand guidelines and our values and how we love to show up, and got them really excited and motivated about who we were. And then we gave them the freedom to go off and pick people that they thought would fit really, really well with our brand.
If you haven't seen the video, it's a pastel-tinted journey through 5 weeks of lockdown as we watch two blokes, played by social media influencers the inspired unemployed, accumulate all manner of COVID-inspired paraphernalia, baking goods, fitness equipment, the stuff we're all going to be selling online after this pandemic is over.
And a big part of the brief and the video was I wanted it to be very Australian. So, one of the first shots you see are Tim Tams raining down. It was interesting because a lot of my colleagues were like, we love this, but I don't know if Tim Tams are very relevant in Norway, for example. And that's okay, right? Because we didn't make it for them. So I'm fine with that. But I think it's coming back to making stuff relevant.
How much freedom did you give the artists that worked in the music video in terms of what they could create and come back with?
So I'm a huge believer in giving creative freedom. Why else do you involve talent? This is not my area or my team's area of expertise. We get people involved who are really, really good at doing what they know. So the brief was to create a song that represented COVID, that brought our brand to life. Our brand is all about being unpredictable and disruptive and cheeky and quirky, and we have a great sense of fun and humour. So we wanted to bring that through. Collaboration is key, and through that trust is formed. And, you can create great things when you trust and you can step back and you allow creatives to have the freedom and the space to truly come up with magical stuff.
Oh, allowing creatives to be creative, that is music to my ears. So once you've got this magical little creation that you've had to madly whip up in the middle of a pandemic together, you need to work out where to put it.
You really use the data to steer you. We all know that in lockdown, everybody shifted to a digital world. Social and online blew up. So it wouldn't have made any sense to be anywhere else but in those channels. We're a new business. We don't have a huge customer base of our own. So we need to go where people are playing, pay to play. And that's what we did. We just figured out where could we be the most disruptive with the largest audience and really make our presence felt. We've seen a huge lift in consumption of video. YouTube's going nuts. It just made sense. We need to introduce ourselves to our core audience, and that is literally where they're hanging out. And I think it's very telling. In total, we've had over 12 million views of the video to date. YouTube's played a really key part in that, but actually the social channels have also been key. So you can see that there's just this hunger for consumption and to be entertained.
And if people are choosing your ad as the thing that's keeping them entertained, then you, my friend, have made yourself some brave creative. So while you might not be in a position to hire a helicopter or make it rain Tim Tams, you can do your perfect version of brave creative. You do it by building trust with your clients, mining the data to understand your audience, and working out where people are, so when you make your little piece of magic, people are going to see it. It's not all about putting on the armour and charging blindly into the battle for eyeballs. It's about being smart, keeping it simple, and thinking about giving your audience a little something for their time. All right, guys, bring in the chopper. Little closer. Bring it down now. I got to do it ladylike. See you next episode. You've been listening to Rethink, a podcast by Think with Google. I'm Rachel Corbett, who has just returned from their joyride, especially to read these closing credits. Forever the professional. If you're enjoying this show, why don't you grab a friend's phone, find their podcast app, and then hit subscribe. Then disinfect it before giving it back, please. We want you to be brave, but not that brave. This podcast was brought to you by Think with Google, created by The Hallway and Eardrum in partnership with Google, and produced by Eardrum. The executive producer was Ralph Van Dyke, producer was Sarah Mashman, project manager was Jesse Williams, the Air on a G-string theme was rethought by Tucker Perry, and the engineer was Adrian Walton.